I sincerely envy all of you out there that can do an authentic, genuine Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. And I'm not talking about, the, come on, do it now, come on, I'm here, do it. I think that's Predator, isn't it? I'm talking about like the everyday casual conversation. Like there's some wonderful impressionists online that you can watch on YouTube from people actually doing genuine Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions, and they're just talking like him, like they're they're having an everyday conversation, and it's so good. They're so good. You close your eyes and you're like, that's totally Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're like, it sounds so good. It sounds so good. You got to check it out. Anyways, I envy you guys. I don't fancy myself an impressionist, so I can do a couple that aren't bad, but Arnold's one I would love to be able to do. I'd just walk around talking like him all fucking day. Anyway, so in this video, this is my top 10 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Here we go. That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Come on! Okay, so in this video, my top 10 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Just like my Eddie Murphy video and my Sylvester Stallone video, this isn't necessarily what would be objectively considered their best, although usually when you do a top 10, the best wind up on that list anyway. This is in no particular order for the most part, although I will say the last probably 4 or 3 definitely are in order, certainly number 1. Again, not a formal movie review of each movie. I don't have time to do that, nor do I care to do that. But I'll talk briefly about each one. And we'll see if your list is the same or your list differs. Okay, here we go. Number 10 is Kindergarten Cop. I love this movie. This is probably one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's better comedies. When you put Arnold in the right movie with the right script, with the right director, he's not bad at comedy. He's pretty good. I think Sly is still a bit better, but Arnold's all right. And this is definitely one of his better comedies. I don't think it's his best. I think that belongs to another movie further down on the list. But, Kindergarten Cop, I think, is great for 2 reasons. You have Ivan Reitman directing, right? He directed Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Twins. I mean, you have a solid director with an established track record of mixing action and comedy and working with Arnold. And then, of course, you have the premise. I mean, this is peak Arnold. This is what, 1990, I think? This is peak. I mean, okay, he wasn't as big as he was when he was, bodybuilding for Mr. Olympia, but he's still massive in this movie. It's fucking ripped and chiseled. And you have this gigantic man who has to go undercover as a substitute kindergarten teacher, right? And, you mix in his Austrian accent and the fact that he's this big, meathead kind of guy, cop, right? The premise alone is hilarious. So in the right movie with the right director, Arnold is funny. And that movie is just hilarious. So number 10 for me, Kindergarten Cop. Number 9 is Eraser with Vanessa Williams from 1996, I believe. I think I saw this movie in the theater, actually. And this is probably one of Arnold's last good action movies. Now, he did have a few in the later 90s as well, and I think one in the early 2000s, or no, he had a couple in the early 2000s, but this is arguably one of his last real solid ones, I would say, because then after 2002, I think in 2003, he became the governor of California, and he was MIA, well, not MIA, but, out of commission, let's say, for the better part of a decade. So Eraser's great, and there's a great line in Eraser where it's when Arnold is talking to Vanessa Williams' character, and she's, he's basically saying that, take this, and, I've got to go do my shit now. If anybody says they're working with me or that I sent, them or whatever, don't believe them. I work alone, okay? Arnold saying, I work alone, sounds like any of us saying, I wear cologne. Watch that movie. It literally sounds like he's going on about this intense, security shit and don't trust anybody and stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's just like, oh yeah, and one last thing. I wear cologne. And it's kind of like, okay. I don't know what the fuck that has to do with anything, but okay. You'll never not be able to not hear it. Anyway, Eraser, awesome movie. James Caan, I think, is in that too, right? Yeah, that's a fun movie. That's a prime Arnold. Number 8. I think I saw this movie in the theater as well. This is 2000, I believe. The Sixth Day. I really like this movie. I don't want to give too much away because this is kind of it's a really cool plot, and you can't really talk a lot about it without giving a lot away. But let's just say it has to do with cloning. And Arnold, he comes home one night to his family, and he realizes that a man who looks identical to him, it is him, obviously, is with I believe they're celebrating his birthday, and he's with his wife and the kids and stuff. And he's like, what the fuck? Anyway, The Sixth Day, I think, is a very underrated, often forgotten Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So it's my number 8 on here for sure. Check it out. I talk more a bit about it, but I don't want to give too much away in case you haven't seen it. Number 7 is an Arnold classic, Commando, with a very young Alyssa Milano. I think this was before... Was this before Who's the Boss? If it wasn't before Who's the Boss, it was definitely on the cusp of like the first or second season of Who's the Boss. But anyway, classic Arnold, like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, this was Arnold's answer to Rambo, essentially, right? You had Rambo and Commando, you know what I'm saying? I don't need to go deep into it. You guys know the movie, fucking awesome. Commando, my number 7. My number 6 is the original Terminator. Now, funny enough, this could be further down on the list, closer to number 1, but I've just started rewatching that movie more on a regular basis over the last number of years, and I like it more and more. I have a much better appreciation for that movie now that I'm older and wiser, and I can watch it from a different perspective. It's really good. It's a really good movie. Not quite as good as T2, obviously, but it's still really good. So the first Terminator is my number 6. My number 5 is arguably Arnold's best comedy in the few comedies that he's done, and that is Twins with Danny DeVito, also directed by Ivan Reitman. And again, think of the premise, right? You have Danny DeVito, who's this short little guy, and he's actually the biological brother of, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, who's gigantic. The premise alone is hilarious with a competent director proven with comedy and action, Ivan Reitman. I mean, you get Arnold in the right roles with the right premises, the right premise, I should say, and the right director, it can pay off. So, what can I say that hasn't already been said about Twins? It's fucking hilarious. If you haven't seen Twins, check it out. 1988, I think. Not just an Arnold classic or a DeVito classic or a Reitman classic. It's just a comedy classic. It's primarily because of that premise. It's fucking hilarious. So Twins is my number 5. I love that movie. Number 4 is Total Recall. The original, of course, not the one with, what's his face there? Colin Farrell. Yes, number 4, yes, is Total Recall. I recently watched this movie again, probably about a year or so ago with my girlfriend, and fuck, it's good. Like, yeah, there's some things that are a little dated, but I forgot how good that movie is. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away in case some people haven't seen it, because there are some younger people that watch me. There are some movies you can talk a lot about and you don't really give anything away. And then there's some movies that if you talk a lot about it, you give a lot away. And it's primarily because of the premise and the depth for which, the movie is about. Like, it's hard to talk about Total Recall without giving a lot away. Sharon Stone's in that movie, but it's hard to talk about her to any depth without giving some shit away, if you know what I mean. So anyway, Total Recall, the original, my number 4, 100%. Number 3 for me is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Arguably the best Terminator out of them all. I am not convinced whatsoever that Terminator Dark Fate, coming out in just a couple of months now, will be just as good, or, well, you know what? Terminator Dark Fate doesn't have to be just as good. It just has to be better than the last, like, 3 or 4 shit shows. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, what is there to say that hasn't already been said about T2? I mean, it in some ways is the quintessential apocalyptic movie, and the special effects were revolutionary. I mean, James Cameron had already dabbled with that shit in The Abyss, which is a fucking amazing movie, by the way. Still holds up today. So when he did, he went on to do T2, I mean, it was revolutionary. And funny enough, even though the effects, a little dated today, they still hold up. You watch T2 now, especially on Blu-ray, fucking shit's amazing. Anyway, classic Arnold, arguably could be his best movie, certainly his most recognizable character, and probably his most recognizable movie of all time. 100%. But it's not my favorite Arnold movie, and there's a reason why. Number 2 is True Lies. Come on! This is, you got James Cameron, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you got Jamie Lee Curtis, right? I mean, this is, it's too bad they never made a sequel. In some ways, it's great that they never made a sequel, and it's way past its expiry date. I mean, a sequel should have come out in the 90s. True Lies was 1994. If they were ever going to do a sequel, that sequel should have come out in, like, I would say like 97, something like that. You know, I remember when they were talking about potentially doing a sequel like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, nah, no. Arnold's way too old. Jamie's way too old now. Like, no way. No way. But anyway, classic shit, man. I mean, again, what is there to say about True Lies that hasn't already been said? This is one of the greatest action movies in the history of cinema. It is, hands down. I still think that the greatest action movie probably goes to Die Hard. I still think that is just an all-around, like, everything is, yeah, just awesome shit. But this is no doubt one of the greatest. So again, I could go on about True Lies, but what can I say that hasn't already been said? And Cameron, Schwarzenegger, and Curtis. I mean, come on. So it's my number 2. Now, my number 1 is this movie, because this is really, at the end of the day, there's a couple on here that could easily be number 1, but this is, at the end of the day, my number 1, because I believe it is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. When you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you think of action and size and muscles, and, you know, I mean, it is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. Now, look, I know there are people out there that would point to Terminator being the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, and you can certainly make an argument for it. But to me, it's this movie, because you just watch him in that movie and it's everything. It's the muscles, it's the one-liners, it's the action, and you could say, what about Terminator? Yeah, but Terminator, he's playing a stiff, one-dimensional sort of monotone guy. He's got charisma in this movie. He's got character in this movie. He's like that charisma and wit that Arnold naturally has as an individual, and that you saw, you know, in, like, you know, Pumping Iron, and how he was jostling and poking fun at Lou Ferrigno, and how he's trying to get in people's heads and shit like that. You see that character and wit and charm to a degree in this character. I mean, it's the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, and that movie is Predator. I mean, come on, do it now, come on, I'm here, come on! I'm telling you, man. And again, what is there to say that hasn't already been said about Predator? One of my favorite lines in that movie is when he tosses that knife and it hits the guy and he's stuck to the wall and he's like, stick around. Stick around. I mean, it's just great. You got Jesse, even though this has nothing to do with Arnold, you got Ventura's great one line where it's like, Blaine, you're bleeding. I ain't got time to bleed. I ain't got time to bleed. For a long time, Jesse Ventura's website was I think it was like, I ain't got time to bleed.com. It's a little long, but I was like, that's amazing. That's fucking awesome. You got, the beginning of the movie, there was like Dylan, like this, and you got Carl Weathers in it, and they're like this, and their biceps are fucking bulging, and he's like, what's the matter? CIA got you pressing too many pencils? or pushing too many pencils or whatever. It's just, this is Arnold. This is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie, in my opinion. And Predator was directed by John McTiernan, who directed arguably the greatest action movie of all time, which is Die Hard. So, and the music, that Predator kind of sound, fucking creepy and eerie as shit. And, the whole idea that these big hulking guys realize that although they're big and they're tough and they got guns, they ain't no fucking match for what's out there. And, we always see it from the POV shot of the Predator and shit. And it still holds up to, I watched it like about a month or so ago because my girlfriend hadn't seen it. And like, you gotta watch fucking Predator. So we popped it in and we watched it and she loved it. She was like, this is great. Like, loved the premise of it and everything. And, the one-liners and shit. So for me, Predator is my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie of all time because it is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. It's got everything. When you think of Arnold and action, it's fucking Predator. It would be like, if you think of Sly and action, it's Rambo. There's the Expendables. Yeah, there's Cobra, right? Sure, there's, Assassins. And sure, there's, more recently like Bullet to the Head or, Cliffhanger or Demolition Man, 100%, right? Great shit. But when you think of the quintessential Sylvester Stallone action movie, it's Rambo, man. It's Predator. Even though he only did one movie. He only did one Predator film. It's that movie for me. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. What are your top 10 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies? Comment below and let me know. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemccrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And that's it. Kindergarten Cop, Eraser, The 6th Day, Commando, Terminator, Twins, Total Recall, T2, True Lies, and Predator. Oh, and honorable mentions go to End of Days, The Last Stand, and The Running Man, with Jesse Ventura. All right, that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.